Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the show tonight. Straight from the source with David Mitchell. I have a phenomenal guest tonight. This is very special and dear to my heart. Listen, my brother joins the show tonight. Not only is he my blood brother, are you ready for this? He is also my pastor. Not only is he my pastor, he's also my friend. Okay? And when I can say that and say that sincerely from my heart, you guys just know what this interview means for me. Give you a little backdrop. My brother, as I was growing up, I knew him as Bob Mitchell. Promises, promises, promises for some of the things he did as an athlete on the court in basketball and on the field in football. Okay. He was inducted into the Stivers High School Athletic Hall of Fame. And he is one of the all-time great pioneers in the city of Dayton when it comes to the racial tension that was going on in the city of Dayton during the early 1970s. Especially in the east area of Dayton, Stivers High School. We're going to get into that whole story, and I just want you guys to just really learn something tonight. We're going to have a little church up in here. We're going to learn about nonprofit and the aspect of what he's doing in business today. A little bit about his family life, and things definitely about basketball in his career. So with that being stated, without further ado, welcome to the show. Joining the show is my brother, Robert Promises Mitchell.
Hello, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for joining the show tonight. And we're getting off to a little later start, but it's going to all well be worth it. Everybody who's listening in now and will be listening in at a later hour. Listen, I'm going to jump right into it with you. Appreciate you being here. We're going to get at a later date, we're going to have your queen, your wife, First Lady Fran Mitchell back on the show. We're going to have you guys together. That's for sure. But listen, take us back and our listeners to when you started playing basketball in the city of Dayton as a young athlete, okay? And I want you to take us back to a period of time when you were around, I'd say probably 13 and 14 years old, in the 7th grade. Where did you play basketball in the 7th grade? And then take us into the 8th grade. Where did you play basketball and football? Because people are going to learn that you're a 2-sport star, enshrined in the Hall of Fame, not only in basketball, but also in football at Stivers High School. Can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing at 13 and 14, and what was it like, and what grade schools did you go to, Pastor?
Well, it was, first of all, I just want to thank you for having me be on here. I just count it an honor. You just a wonderful, straight from the source. It's just a wonderful place for information, knowledge about sports and businesses. So I'm just proud of what you're doing, brother. It's just a blessing. Well, my background goes back my early days. We went to Garfield. We were living on Broadway. We went to Garfield. We later moved. Garfield started shut down. We went up to McFarland. Then the family moved to get to the grade where you wanted to. We went farther up the hill. We went up to Holmes Avenue, and Home Avenue, and it was at that time in the 7th grade I entered Weaver Elementary School. And this was the first time since we were coming up. It wasn't like nowadays when you had kids playing ankle ball and young kids and things. You couldn't play organized football or basketball to the 7th grade. And so we played for Weaver. Cooley was our coach, Coach Cooley. Cooley, man, he coached a lot of people in Dayton, Ohio. Excellent man, coached a lot of people. He was our coach. And so we went on the football field and we practiced at Westwood, their football field. And our 7th grade team, I began there to start playing defensive end. I understood I had some speed and some quickness about myself, so I played defensive end. In the 7th grade, our 7th grade team went totally undefeated. We went undefeated for the whole year, and my skills kept improving, and we had a successful year. The 8th grade year, Weaver also. I played football and basketball for Weaver, 7th, 8th grade. Our 8th grade team went undefeated in the championship game. We got scored on. We ended up beating the team 7-6. My great friend, Michael Watson, Michael Balfman, he broke a touchdown, about an 80-yard touchdown late in the game. We pulled that game out. So we were undefeated. So we were well known from what we were doing, because in the city, you played all the other elementary schools, and people knew that the young men that had some talents and some gifts about them. And so that was my early stage, but I started picking up a ball, just playing with it at an early age, and never put that ball down.
Wow. I appreciate you sharing that, because that gives individuals an idea of where you went to school and where you learned the game of basketball in the beginning at the 7th grade level. Now, Pastor, as you move forward, when you were coming out of grade school, do you remember what was the choice like for you to go to school? Because you attended the prestigious former Roosevelt High School as a freshman. Tell us a little bit about you going over to Roosevelt in your freshman year and how that decision came about.
Well, actually, we would go to Roosevelt and play ball during the summer, and we'd go outside and play football. And but when it came to Roosevelt, the first day I was going to Roosevelt, me and my buddies had already talked about, hey, we wanted to make a name for ourselves. Michael played with me, outstanding running back. Stack, who was a linebacker, outstanding player. Tim Brown. We all decided that we wanted to go to another school besides Dunbar and Roosevelt and try to make a name for ourselves. We thought as young Black men, we would stand out. We knew at Roosevelt, which I knew we could all play, because we were outstanding athletes, because we had competed with all the other guys in the city. But we thought if we really wanted to make a splash, which we did, so we looked on our bus line, and on our bus line, Stivers, I could step out of my house, catch the bus, and go straight to Stivers, straight down 5th Street to take me straight to the school. I didn't know a lot about the school, but I knew it was on the east side. I looked up, I saw it had a little history in football and things, and I said, that's the one. And so that's where that choice came from. We wanted to be different. We wanted to be a little peculiar. So we actually chose Stivers to go to rather than Dunbar, because I could either went to Dunbar or Roosevelt.
Wow. A lot of different choices, but what I heard the most was that your mentality was, I'm at this powerhouse Roosevelt. It's easy to be at these powerhouses like they building the super teams now. I want to go out here and do something and make a name for myself. Right. That entrepreneur mind spirit that you had as a teenager already, so to speak. And then you get there. When you get to Stivers, let's paint the picture for the audience that's watching. When you got to Stivers High School, and I believe it was 1971 through 73 for you.
Actually, they had freedom of enrollment in 69. We entered in 69, it turned 70. So we did 70, 71, 72, 73. We did 4 years there. Okay. Actually, when we came in as freshmen, bro, it was so amazing because the first day, me and my buddies went there, and we caught the bus, and about 4 of us went there, 4 or 5 of us. Everything was beautiful. Everything was cool. Everybody was shaking hands. Everything was peaceful. But because of this freedom enrollment, we went there, I believe it was on a Thursday. Thursday and Friday was fine. Monday, they bussed about 100 Black men and women from the Dunbar area to Stivers. And this was the beginning of what we call our annual racial riots. We had riots every day. When that bus pulled up, I saw things change in the school. I saw things change without the school. And so it was just a different atmosphere. They could accept a few, but when this multitude of young Black men and women came, because when me and my buddies pulled up on the bus, I can remember like it was yesterday, bruh. We pulled up on the bus and we walked into the Stivers. You ever been to Stivers? They got these steps you got to walk up. And so as I walk in, me and my buddies, they say, I say, why are y'all standing down here? And they said, well, they won't let us up the steps. So these people, all right, come on. So we go up the steps, and it was amazing. When we got up to the top of the steps, of course, some of our sisters started getting a little sassy, and everything got heated up right then. And it was the beginning of what we call riots started at that particular point right there. They did not want us, that multitude, coming into their school.
Wow. Wow. Again, we painting a picture here. We've come a long way in society. We still have a long way to go. Everyone knows that there's still racism in this world, but we're talking about 69, 70 through 70 through 73. Now, with those racial tensions, I remember the article that came out in the Dayton Daily News, and I know you have it. It may be hanging in your office now, where you were real instrumental in stopping a lot of violence that was being handed down by the community. And you was a likable athlete, a star athlete, all-state basketball, all-state football. But why do you think, you was the chosen one to have to put something together like that to stop such a bad crime, hate crimes?
Well, the thing was, you asked earlier about my upbringing. Was an entrepreneur, and he dealt with everybody. He dealt with Blacks, whites, Jews, everybody. He didn't discriminate against anyone. He was the first one that took me to his Jewish banker and told him, this is my son, and I want to establish his credit. He took me out to Trotwood and introduced me to his banker. I had no problems after that. And he had guys that he owned an auto body shop. He fixed everybody's car in town practically for nothing. And so Mitchell's Auto Body Shop. And so I watched my dad, and my dad knew how to associate with everybody, and everybody treated him fair because he treated people fair. So what had happened was a lot of the people of color, after a couple of days of this rioting, they left. They went back home. Some people got suspended for the entire school year. They had to fight back to get back in school. I don't know if I can express in words the tension and the drama and what we went through. I mean, it's hard to even put in words what we went through. But because I determined myself, no matter what happened, I made this my school, and wasn't nobody going to force me out. And so I began to speak for the Blacks, and I began to speak up for them. I began to talk to the counselors and the teachers, and I would tell them, because we could tell when a riot was getting ready to start, because the students, they would wear their white T-shirts, and when all the guys had their white T-shirts and stuff on, I say, listen, something's getting ready to jump out. You had to always have your head on a swivel. You had to have a discernment, and you had to know what was going on even to survive. And I say this, brother, it wasn't as bad in the school. Where most of the hatred came from was family members outside the school. The guys that I played ball with, the team, the unity that we had, I mean, we became like brothers. but yet and still, some of them invited me home, but I wasn't going to their house because some of their brothers and stuff, when the riots broke out, family members, I'm talking about people on wheelchairs and cane. You looked over at Baumberg, which is center right across from Stivers. It was packed with thousands of people chasing, running after us. And it got so nasty that they painted pictures of us getting on bus, probably about the 30 blacks that hung around getting on bus. They shaking and rocking the bus and throwing rocks and looked like we were running. And we didn't want to appear that we were running, but we were surviving for our life.
Absolutely.
And so one of the things that I did, I asked my father, I said, right away, Dad, you got a body shop, I need a car. He got me a car right away because I told him if I need to get out of there, I need to get out of there in a hurry. Absolutely. And so that was one of the things that my dad did in my freshman year.
Absolutely, man. This is some history. This is, I mean, you're sitting here, you like, wow, when you really think back on it, you survived a lot and you was instrumental in so much. I believe that had it not been for what you paved the way and everybody else in your class from 69, 70 on through 73, I mean, that was the beginning of the busing. That was the beginning of it. If you guys didn't find a way to mesh and get along, and as we know, sports really help people, build relationships and character. Again, like you said, it was a lot of the outside noise that was causing and stirring up all the riots. So I just wanted to give you your flowers while you were here. In regards to that, it's been so many years in that article, it still holds weight today. If anybody ever wants to look that article up, I mean, it's an incredible article speaking about Bob Mitchell, Promises, Bob Mitchell, stopping riots in East Dayton back in those days. Now, do you think when you were playing ball at Stivers, with all the success that you had, like individually and with the team success, that I would say no. If you guys wasn't successful in stopping with the riot, with dealing with those riots, and or being successful on the field and on the court, without what you guys did, without what you did, and Curtis Russell and all of them guys, Gary Justice, I think you used to talk about, and Stack Long, and I mean the list go on and on and on. Post Way, big Jesse Montague, and Frankie Donnie Barnett. I mean, the list go on. Yeah, rest in peace. I mean, the list go on and on. Frankie them, when Frankie J came along in 75, right?
Right.
This is where I wanted to really paint a picture for the people out there about you. When you was coming through telling people, tell them the story about the reporter and how you got the name Promises, because you was promises of stuff and delivery.
Well, Gary was the reporter at the time, and he would write about me. It didn't have to be on the weekend. He would write about something about me in the paper any day of the week. And he interviewed me, and he said, Mitchell, where did you get the name Promises? I said, well, the kids would always ask me for the game. Hey, Mitch, how many points are you going to hit? And I told him, I tapped my nose, a couple times, at Rolfe and hit 20-something points. And I tapped my nose, playing Roosevelt and hit 3 times, hit 34 points. And I tapped my nose 4 times against Dunbar and hit 40-some points. I said, I never tapped my nose more than 4 times, but that's not a promise. And he said, well, we're going to call you Promises. And that's how I got that nickname, from tapping my nose.
Wow. Y'all heard it right here on Straight from the Source. That's where it came from. And I mean, it's like it's a specific story. I believe it was the Dunbar game, wasn't it? Where they asked you and you went out. Explain that story.
Well, the Dunbar game, we were playing in UD Arena. and you know, and everybody in the city would give each individual respect. But the Dunbar coach had wrote something you just never know because it's paper writings, and he said, "Well, you know, Mitchell, we're not worried about Mitchell. Mitchell, you know, he's 6'3" and he's played center. We got 3 or 4 guys 6'4", 6'5". We're not worried about him. We're gonna shut him off." And I never heard anybody put anything like that in the paper. So as I was running out the locker room, I remember tapping my nose 4 times. And the commentator over there, he announced to all of us, he said, introducing starting at guard, can opener Russell. They called him can opener because he had these type moves. Jumping Gary Justice, the Red Baron. Bob Bradford was a point guard. He could get that ball to any kind of way he was. Tilton was another guy that started, you know, and Jumping Gary. So he get on. Then we got to me, said, last but not least, promises, promises, promises. And it just carried, and the stadium lit up. And then it was up to us to perform against Dunbar. And you know, in all your life, you know, other than we were freshmen, because our freshman team we were frost, and we was awesome. But sophomore, juniors year, we just got beat down by the big city schools in the city. And so we finally got our revenge because we played Dunbar on neutral turf. And we played them in that UD arena. And I mean, we made some early adjustments and we went in overtime and we beat the Big D, the Dunbar Wolverines. And I scored over 40 points in that game. And I'll never forget it because I had family there, and it was very exciting. And you know, they were saying how many people hit 40 or more in UD Arena you could count on one hand. So that was something that, you know, really made the win was the biggest thing because we beat the Wolverines.
Wow, absolutely. And with First Lady Fran Mitchell being a Dunbar Wolverine graduate.
Yeah, I rubbed that in.
You get to rub that in a little bit on First Lady. I know she'll get a laugh out of me mentioning that.
Let me share this about Dunbar. Let me share this because when I was a sophomore, we went into Dunbar's gym. It seemed like so compact, and I'm a sophomore, and I'm only black. I'm the only black starting as a sophomore. You know, Coach really believed in Chad Owens. Really believed in upper class, but he saw my talent, and I'm starting the 6'3" center. When we go into this gym, they got left-handed gates. This boy was like money. I mean, they had both of the Cash brothers. I mean, one Cash about 6'7", another Cash about 6'9". They had Howard, 7'1". He's the center I'm going against. And they had Bill Higgins. You know, he went to Ashland, Rio Grande. They call him Wild Bill Higgins. Man, I tell you about him. Man, I mean, they said that many say this was the best ever assembled team not to win a championship. They went to finals and lost. But I had to go in there and play against those guys. And I remember for the first few minutes, we were battling with them guys. But then the lights went out, the scoreboards went out, and then they was keeping score on the chalkboard, and it was over after that. I mean, but just the impact of going in that gym and playing against this super team, it was unbelievable, man. And so those situations like that prepare you for later days in your career.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, Sweetheart Mitchell Collection said the younger generation really needs to know this, and they really do, because it paves the way. Because when you always think of the greatest that ever did it, you know, it's always somebody from the 70s era, 80s era, 90s, 60s. You know, some of the newer generation is coming into the fold, but generally it's somebody who's a pioneer who then paved the way, like yourself. That Dunbar team, Pastor, you right, was arguably the greatest ever state runner-up team to never ever win it in the history of Dayton. Some talk about that Hoskett team over at Belmont in 64 as well, but that team at Dunbar was just, you know, phenomenal. when you think about all them guys that was on that
Woo.
particular team. I mean,
They
it was
were a pro team. They were a pro team. They was
and you say Gates was on that team too, right?
Oh man, he was sweet, man. I mean, they had Chappelle. They had people coming off the bench, but they had starters on the bench, could start anywhere, man. I mean, that team was so deep, man. It was mind-boggling.
Wow.
But they say the reason why they didn't win, Waterman, that was Waterman's team. He left Dunbar, and the seniors had to play under the other coach, and he ended up going to Ohio State.
Mm-hmm. Ben Waterman. I remember you mentioning his name quite a bit when we was younger, when I was coming up.
Right.
Ben Waterman. Ben Waterman. Now, when you talk about like your career, let's switch it a little bit from the basketball over to the football, because you're a Hall of Famer at Stivers High School in both sports.
Right.
When you played defensive end at 6'3", 180 something, 190 something in high school, that was pretty nice size for a tight end at that time.
Right.
And you was menacing. Tell us a little bit about the City Football League, especially during your junior and senior year.
Well, it was amazing. You know, we had a lot of success. We took our battles, we took our beatings, but we had a lot of success. I played defensive end all the way up, you know, from a sophomore year starting to my senior to my my sophomore and junior year. I played defensive end. They put me up for all state my junior year, and I made honorables in my junior year. Sophomore year, I made all city honorable mention and at a sophomore. My junior year, I made everything. I had my best averages in football and basketball, and my football area on defense was known as Forbidden Grounds. And the papers read nobody not wearing orange jerseys was not allowed on Mitchell's side of the field, better known as Forbidden Grounds. I didn't allow them to run that side. I just, you know, it was such a different game. I don't think I could play in the game today because my famous move was to chuck to the head. I chucked to the head before any of the defensive guys could get to me, because once they get to your body, it's over. And that was my favorite move, to chuck to the head. But now you can't touch the head, and I would hit with the elbow. You can't hit with the elbow anymore. So I don't know if I could play the game today because the adjustments. And I think really to get the games today, many times the referees, you know, makes the final decision in some of these games today. But back then, I just loved the game. I loved the competition. You know, our senior year, we had some success. We never could beat the powerhouses, the Roosevelts. They were just a little too deep. But some of the other teams like Colonel White and things like that, and Patterson, we had a lot of success. And so, but it was just the consistency and the will to be successful. And I think a lot of that came from, you know, going through all that we were going through during the school year. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I appreciate you sharing that, because people just don't realize how hard it is to be, you know, you were a 6'3" at center, you know, and I recently had on the show, I had the legendary 9-time state title. We won 3 state championships in Ohio, 2 with Coach, legendary, rest in peace, Coach Mike Haley over at Roth High School, and then 1 over at Dunbar with Coach Haley, right? I had Coach Bobby Porter on the show, 1974 All-City out of Roth High School, right? Right behind you in your era. And he said, David, I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, I feel like Bobby, because he used to look up to you. Like I said, you never know who watching you, because both of y'all name was Bobby or Robert, and he was a year under you. You see what I mean? And played the center spot. And he was, and Bobby like 6'8".
Right.
So you was going up against, like you say, just like when I played at around 6'1.5", almost 6'2", I'm going up against forwards and stuff like that in centers. So I know exactly what you mean. But in your era, I want to make sure that I give a shout out to, because Patterson was right next door.
Yeah.
You know, And I remember you mentioning Bruce Sky King when we were coming up,
Yeah.
you know, and you used to mention, I think, Big Postway.
Postway. Yeah.
We don't want to miss any of them guys out from over to Patterson, because it was almost, I guess, like y'all was almost like brothers over there. Eric Sutton, Frankie Sanders,
right.
And he said, Coach Porter, that you brought the toughness out in Frankie. Frankie learned a lot of that looking up to you from his, being 2 years behind you, and that toughness, that you brought to the game. But I remember when he came past the house on a couple more than one occasion when we was younger. Can you just speak a little bit about your relationship with the great Frankie J. Sanders and your impact you believe that you may have had on his career when he was younger?
Well, their class had three stars. They had Postway, they had Eric Sutton, and they had Frankie Sanders. Frankie and Eric just had natural talents. Postway was like me. He was a 6'3" center, but he was a big, broad guy and rebound a lot. He didn't have to worry about scoring because Frankie and Sutton did all the scoring. But the fact of the matter was, you didn't have to tell Frankie a lot. He had a lot of natural talents. What I would always tell Frankie, keep the game simple. Don't complicate the game. Be physical when you have to. Go to the hole when you have to. Be sharp. What I was trying to do, I was trying to tell Shad Owens, bring those young guys up and we can get a championship back at Stivers again. We could get a championship back at Stivers again. But Shad Owens was so strict about his upperclassmen that, we had 5 seniors that started along with Curtis Russell, who was a junior. And so, but he was a stickler about that. But Frankie was so gifted, as well as Sutton, man. They were called the dynamic duo. I mean, these guys went to the state. They should have won the state. I thought Frankie, Frankie sort of took the game over the last time. I sort of thought he should have kept the ball in Sutton's hand because Sutton was negotiating. Sutton was a true point guard. He could dish that rock. He could shoot left. He could do it all. But Frankie was, he was just, I say he was one of the best athletes to come out of Dayton playing basketball. He was definitely that, going to the pros and all of that. But the thing about Frankie, I told Frankie, don't get too cool. Every now and then he would get too cool, but he was just gifted. And so that was my words to him, keep the game simple. Don't make it complicated. Don't get too cool. I never forget, he called me up telling me, I'm in Seattle. They got this guy by the name of the Iceman. Who is the Iceman to me, Mitch? I said, wait a minute, Frankie. You're talking about he didn't bar nobody. You're talking about the Iceman. But that was just Frankie's character. He knew what he could do, and he backed it up. And I didn't have to teach him a lot. I just told him about, staying the course, being consistent, and letting the game come to you. And he took good advice and just was a great athlete. Him and Rick Sutton, they were just great athletes, as well as Postway.
Yeah, you remember when we was over at Roosevelt and we ran into Frankie Sanders with that brand new Diamond Jubilee.
I told him keep it simple with real diamonds in the back.
Yeah, real diamonds, y'all, in his glass windows, in his opera windows. Frankie Sanders pulled up on us. We had just finished balling over it at the great Roosevelt Lighting Center.
Right.
And Pastor, at the time, Promises seen Frankie, and when they connected, and I remember he popped the trunk and gave you some pony tennis shoes. I couldn't fit none of them. I was like, man, I was young. I couldn't fit them. But, them was just the good old days. And we still going to do everything we can to get Frankie J. Sanders.
Oh, that ain't no problem.
On this show.
That ain't no problem.
Yeah, we definitely working on that. Now, your induction into the Stivers High School Hall of Fame And when we went down several years ago, I remember it was a tremendous experience for myself being your brother to witness it along with other family members. And then to go in and see the late, great, legendary Don Donaher from University of Dayton, got to chop it up with him and take pictures and things like that. How did it make you feel when you went in?
Well, it was amazing. I didn't even know Stivers had a Hall of Fame. I had really the late my buddy Essex, who played. He was a wrestler at Stivers. He became a pastor. My great friend just passed away a year or so ago, and God rest his soul. But he told me about the Hall of Fame. He told me about a shrine that was going on, and then I think it was Deborah Patterson or Telefair, one of the young ladies that mentioned about Bob Mitchell. When they looked at the stats, said, "Oh, how do we overlook Mitchell?" And so they called me. And it was such a great honor. And as I said during my speech, I would be remiss not to mention what we had to go through, the racial tension. And I know Essex always told me, Pastor Essex told me, you got to go back up to Stivers because they got a shrine of you. So I went up there one day because I had no intention in going back there, not because of hatred, but it just wasn't on my agenda. And so I went up there. And I never got to the shrine because the diversity at the school blew my mind. Stivers became an art school, and Obama had came there and spoke, and so I think for history's sake that people don't know those who stayed in 73 and 69 and came up there and paved that way. If we had not paved that way, we don't know what would have ever happened. But we paid a price to pave that way, spit on, rocks thrown at, guns pulled out, knives, everything, bricks thrown at. I mean, they had chants, die. Donnie's mother came up and collapsed. They were chanting, die, and die. And they was chanting that. And you could hear it vibrating through the area where we were at. And it was just what we had to go through to make these things happen. And so when that honor came, it was an honor. In 2014, it was quite an honor. And then when you really think about the history of Stivers, because Stivers had won 2 national championships, about 8 or 9 state championships. They had city championships. About then, the school. This was in they formed this school in 1906. They had 6 schools that came aboard, and they were called the Big Six. And Fairview, your old school, was part of that Big Six, and Roosevelt and Kaiser, and Chaminade, and they were the Big Six. And so this school, and they had Steele, and that was Stivers' rival, but Steele eventually they beat up on Stivers for a while, but then Stivers started winning and went on to win championships and things. And then when the other schools came aboard, a lot of people from Steere started going to the Roosevelts and the Fairviews and the Chaminades. And so they sort of closed down. But it's just a lot of history that I learned about Stivers. And so when Frankie Sanders then was the first one to come back and make it to that championship game. So they will always be remembered, even though they were runners up, they will always be remembered about what they did getting to those titles and things of that nature. But it's a lot of history in Stivers. And then Patterson came over and took over for a while, and then became Stivers Patterson, but now it's Stivers again, and the history continues on. So now I've got a different perspective because of the history and the part that I played to see the school become a more diverse school that it is today.
Absolutely. Very well spoken. Was glad to see that because I know Stivers went through some of that for a minute. What I went through with the school closing, then
Right,
eventually it came back, and now
right.
some big performing arts school and everything with Hall of Fame enshrinement. So that's just incredible uh, to hear. So during your era, and I know this, but a lot of people may not. You like you even mentioned that Bo Schembechler was like interested in you in football, and then you had opportunity perhaps to go to Wilmington College, where you knew that the Cincinnati Bengals would be right there, to watch you. But you decided, because I know a lot of it you had spoken to me about finances like the NBA, and you was the first to tell me about Dr. J and the ABA, but the money wasn't paying the way it is these days, obviously. So growing up in Dayton, Ohio, it was so many Fortune 500 companies growing up. I mean, it
Right.
was a pipeline, but you made the decision to go to a historically Black college, an HBCU, which is now becoming finally in America popular. Can you talk to us about what it was like, your experience at Wilberforce University, which is the first privately owned historically Black college in America?
Well, that's a long story, and it's a lot to that. Making that decision. I really believe that McFarland was our head football coach, and Han was the assistant coach. And Han told me something that changed my life, and I carry that slogan throughout my life today. And he said, he said, Mitchell, excuses only satisfy those who make them. And man, I never had an excuse ever again on the football field. If I had to get in the bull in the ring and they called every number, I was there. I just took whatever came my way. I didn't make any excuses. Even if I felt I was right or I wrong, I just didn't make excuses anymore. That thing stuck with me. It permanently in my life. And making decisions was a lot of things that went because my senior year, when football ended, you go right on the grid, the basketball court, and then when basketball ended, we sort of got upset early in the tournament. My senior year, I believe we could have went all the way, but we got upset early on, and so it was time to make a decision. And my football coach told me he thought I was going to play basketball, and my basketball coach told me he thought he was going to play football. I don't think Stivers at the time knew the procedure of dealing with an athlete like myself, not boasting anything, but someone who had, made all the honors and all the accolades. I don't think they had the connections, and it was early on then, and being at Stivers High School, not a real popular name like a Dunbar, Rolfe, or even some of the Beaver Creeks or something like that. But Stivers was not really on the map. I mean, we were double A at that, and so that played a role in it. And then when my letters started coming in, they wasn't saying what I wanted to hear. My counselor said, "Oh, you done made all state, Mitchell. You don't have to worry about nothing in both sports. You get lettered in track and field, and all these, you don't have to worry about nothing." But nobody really, you dream about them just talking to you, coming to your house. No, those things wasn't happening. And then the other thing that changed everything, people don't tell about, there's always a dark side of people's life, and people don't tell about that. But in my ministry, I say you have to be transparent. I had this pretty girl that I was dating in high school, and in my junior year, all I was thinking about was playing ball, come home, eating, resting, playing ball, come home, eating, resting. My buddy said, "Well, you ain't got with this pretty girl." And so I tried one time, used protection. 9 months later, I've got a son. I've got a son, Andre Mitchell, my son, my oldest son, just turned 50 years of age. And so it changes the course of your life. It changes your thought pattern. This young lady was an orphan. She was staying at Sean Acres. She had no family. She had a sister and no other family. And so she didn't want me to go too far. She didn't. I could have went to Ohio State. I got a letter from Ohio State. I could have went up there, but you know, your parents are so smart. You know, my mother had a great vision. She said we went and toured Wilmington because they wanted me really bad. They told me I could play football and basketball, and the Bengals training camp was right there.
Yeah.
But what had happened was when I went up there, as I was leaving, these Quakers had these hats on, and these garments on, and I'm a young man coming through all these riots and things, and seeing these peculiar looking Caucasians, and I said, oh no, I just know, and they were totally different spirits, you know, than what
Right.
through. But I just said no, and then when I visited Wilberforce, and what happened, Coach Counselor Johnson, my counselor at Stivers, became the head coach at Wilberforce. And he said, Mitchell, you don't have to worry about nothing. I got your full scholarship. You don't have to worry about filling nothing out. I said, well, this is what I'm talking about. I went up to school and everything was laid out. But he eventually, and he had a recruiting class. He had Abe Turner from Rolfe, Wilkinson from Rolfe. He had Ike Green from Roosevelt. I mean, he had such a recruiting class. It was he had from Chicago guys sitting in the bleachers talking about I'm from down south, averaged 50 points a game. I mean, he had a recruiting class, but you know, he didn't stay, and he just sort of left abruptly. And so everything changed. You know, after my first year, I was scrapping, trying to figure out I was going to get through school. But by the grace of God, I was able to work in the financial office, and everything worked out. You know, but you know that transition is so many things that happen in life that, and I truly believe, brother, that you know you have so many outstanding athletes out here that never make it to the league for various reasons. And then there's a mindset that athlete takes on from being in competition. And I think it's a great thing. But when you competed on very, very extreme and high levels, when you competed on very extreme and high levels, there's always that desire to be the best that you can be. You always strive to achieve, and that competition is a good thing if you don't let it go to the left. There's a lot of athletes that you know, I imagine those athletes that went to the pros and how they suffer and things when you've had millions of dollars, then you find out you don't have anything. And so my perspective was, you know, when I looked at my career at ball at Wilberforce University, after my junior year, I realized all the things that was promised me, the new Coliseum that was going to be built, all these things, they wasn't going to take place. So I decided I was going to focus on my degree in business, and I was going to graduate. And, you know, early on, I was dating a young lady who was a math major before I met my wife in my junior year, who was a math major. And she was making big money, graduated early. And I figured coming out, I'd be making big money. So I said, you know, that was the goal, you know, to be successful. And so your dreams sort of changed, your vision changed. And so, you know, that was that course that I sort of took. The course was different. It was challenging, but I thank God the experience at Wilberforce, going to a historical Black university, you know, I wouldn't change it for the world. I mean, I met my wife, you know, with my family, you know, then I've got a family from her, and it's such a blessing. And so, you know, everything is not in dollars and cents, and everything doesn't come overnight. You got to be patient and wait on things, and set your own goals and accomplish and be grateful for the things that you have in life. And so many people, you know, don't make that balance, that adjustment. And so I thank God that, you know, even in some darker sides of my life, you know, that those things helped me to become the individual that I am today. And but man, you talking about the experience at Wilberforce? Oh man, it was just such a joy and such a fun. Then there's so many memorable occasions, man. You know, we had the worst tornado in the history, the tornado of, I think it was April 4th, 1974. That thing, it was coming through Cincinnati, coming through Dayton, and all of a sudden a guy was taking my car, getting ready to go into town, and we heard it was coming our way, and then we felt the wind shift, and the skies got dark, so we run to get him. And no sooner than we get out there, that wind picks up. He stops the car, get a car, and everybody run. When you got back to the building on the new campus, you couldn't open the door because the wind had shifted. Then it shifted again and skipped over our school, and the doors open. We got to safety, but it actually hit our old campus where Central State and Wilberforce are combined. And so, it's just a blessing because we went through those, memorable times when, a couple people perished during those times, but it's experiences like that when unity comes together and people come together and you forget about everything else and you begin to think about people's lives. And so I have so many memories at Wilberforce and to graduate and so many friendships that you build there, people from all around the world. And so I didn't want to go anywhere. And so I could have transferred my sophomore year. I was fortunate enough to make all district at Wilberforce. And even though we were a Division III school, but I was in love with the school. And it was just a blessing for me.
Wow. Because this is a sports and business show. And what I learned a lot of times, not just in your era, but in today's day and age, when individuals go to historically Black colleges, they learn right away, look, because they don't get these athletes a lot of times that just ranked off the charts and all of this, that, and the other. They're taught family, they're taught business, education, and this is what we're gonna do once the ball stop bouncing, because it may just stop bouncing or the football may stop going through the air. They taught you guys a lot about, you learned that I need to get out here and take my business degree and go out here and be somebody in life. And I appreciate you sharing that, because that's a lot of what I'm trying to do on this program now, is highlight historically Black colleges and universities. And then the good point is, we can throw this in, our sister, Carolyn Mitchell, Fuqua. She went to, Wilberforce University with you.
Right.
That had to be a wonderful experience. That's something you can just talk about forever. Let me see what else I got in here for you, Pastor, as we wrap it up here in our last 7-8 minutes. I wanted to ask you, you remember when we was younger, right? We was on Home Avenue, and the Stivers crew would pop up periodically, and you guys would go outside and race. Do you remember those days?
Yeah.
Do you remember who you beat in your last race? Now, we're talking street races, you guys, running. They didn't have nothing else to do but burn energy back in the day. And we would get in the street and race from one end of the block to the other end. And Pastor, you was fast.
Yeah.
You remember who you beat in your last race?
Well, I know that I had, my nephews would try to challenge me. I don't quite remember, because I had a lot of races. It was always somebody trying to compete.
Yeah, I think I remember. I think like Stack used to run. I think Michael would run, and guys like that.
We got disqualified from the track and field events. We were dominating the track and field events, and Michael was our anchor guy. This guy, man, once he got going, now I could beat him in 50 yards, but once he got going, it was over, man. He was like a stallion, man. He had calves on him and thighs, man. This guy could go. And we were behind in the relay. This guy might have had half a fill on Michael. Mike walked him down. They disqualified us because in the freshman relays, because we were dominating, they said we all had varsity letters, so they disqualified us. And so I remember that, man. They just wouldn't give us a break over there at Stivers.
Wow. You guys was under the microscope for sure. Pastor, another transition from out of sport for you has been the ministry. Tell us a little bit about the Shepherd's House. Man, you've been married to First Lady Dr. Fran Mitchell for 40 plus years. You got beautiful sons and Delwan Mitchell and you know Andre Mitchell, you know Jasmine Mitchell and Krista, your daughter. I mean, tell us a little bit about, you know, what it's been like for you on your journey through ministry.
Well, you know, life can humble you, and you know, to every story there are you know, people see me now and they don't know because you know I started doing things unseemly, you know, as I got disappointed in life with jobs closing and doors slamming in my face, and uh, and so you know I started entrepreneurship, and a lot of things, you know, because of some of the dark things that led me down a dark path. You know, it was such a blessing to have a wife like Fran Mitchell, you know, from Fran Wilkinson, you know, this Dunbar queen, because she stood beside me when it was time for her to make an adjustment 30 some years ago when I was missing my behavior and doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. She took the kids and did what she had to do, but by the grace of God, He restored it. And you know, I got in a little trouble, and and in that trouble, I asked God to deliver me from any addiction. You know, you know I got involved with cocaine, and God delivered me from that. And you know, that's been over 33 years ago. I haven't looked back. And from there, you know, I went into the Salvation Army. And from there, I got out of Salvation Army, became a chaplain at the Salvation Army, just how good God is. From there, I went to what we call the Temple of Jesus. Now it's Faith Temple, where I was under the leadership of Pastor Baltimore, the Baltimore family, and they groomed us, and we branched out. Now it's been 15 years, I believe. Is this a 18 years? It's been 18. Yeah, 18 years, and we branched out, and God has been good to us. And you know, and you don't despise small beginnings. You know, we've now developed what we call the Shepherd's House. It's an outreach program where we help people in the community. Our ministry is designed to build leadership. You know, it's not about having the biggest ministry, but it's about building leaderships, preparing people to go out and touch lives in the world, and teach people how to be respectable, and to do their own entrepreneurship and start their own ministries and things like that. And through all of that, through the Shepherd's House and helping people, we just had a toy drive that we blessed I don't know how many families, and we gave out some people some gift cards for older children, but we have what's called By His Grace Ministry. That's our ministry, and I say everything in my life has been by God's grace, and so we named the ministry By His Grace Ministry. And we meet every day at every Sunday at 9 a.m. We have Wednesday. We just got through having Wednesday interactive Bible study, and you know, we do a lot through that. But one of the greatest achievements was that we put on the vision board. We wanted to have more prayer. And that was one of the things on the vision. Your wife, Dr. Linda Mitchell, hallelujah, my sister, boys, a sister-in-law, she's a gift from God. She took up the hat. She said, I'll do prayer. She did a 6 a.m. prayer. She committed to a year, and that was such a blessing. We had Evangelist Dacia Dahl. She's getting ready to get married. Praise God. God is just blessed her. She took up prayer, and she does a 7:45 prayer every day, 7:45 a.m. every day. Of course, my wife and I were doing a Tuesday at 7:45 p.m. that we have every Tuesday, and these were some of the things that we prayed about and began to happen. We also prayed about having a school, an accredited school, where people can get educated and at an affordable price. And one of our goals was that we would turn nobody away, no matter what their situation was. And so we know we have one of the most affordable schools probably around the world. And if you can find anybody that's more affordable, please let me know. And you can get your bachelor's to your doctoral, and it's an accredited school. And so I just encourage people who wants to know more about the theology. My youngest son, Pastor Delwan, Dr. Delwan Mitchell, he teaches theology, and God has just blessed him with tremendous knowledge, and he studies to show himself approved. We're humble people. We're not where God wants us to be, but we're comfortable. We're content, but we know God has much more for us. It's just so much that you can do out here today to help somebody, because we have a counseling team now. We teach Christian counseling in that school, and we have a counseling team for people who need counseling in these pandemic times. So many people need counseling, so we offer that. And so, it's just every day, we have to live to trust God. And if you do that, and you give him thanks, no matter where you at, no matter what the situations. We've lost people during this pandemic. I lost some of my best friends, some of my pastor friends. Essex, I go on and on. Elder Greg, we lost family members, but yet and still, you still give God thanks, and you thank God for everything that he does in your life, even in the good times as well as the bad times. And that's pretty much our motto, to help people to help themselves.
Well, let's see. Do you have any information like the church where you guys can be reached, or if someone wants to
be part of
you about going to school at the Shepherd House School of Theology?
Do you have a website? It's on our website. And then if anybody wants prayer anytime, we have prayer. And if you put our website up there, they can go to our website and find any information about the school. And if anybody wants prayer, you can call our prayer line. We have that every day, and that's very important these times. And the prayer number is 605-562-8400. And the code is 823-7834. That's for our prayer line.
Okay. We appreciate you sharing
Yeah.
that. Hey.
And our website is the Shepherd's House School of Theology for anybody that wants to, if you didn't have it up, but the Shepherd's House School of Theology, anyone that wants to find out anything about the school, or people can personally call me. My number's available. You can personally call me. I'm available for anybody. My number, if you want to call me, is 703-507-0907. I make myself available. If there's any information I can help anybody with or anything, this is my life. This is what I do now. My goal now here, like I say, to build leadership. You're always trying to pass something down. And so now I'm in a season of life where I'm trying to turn things into my son's hands, into some of my sister's hands and brother's hands and other people in the ministry, because it's just that season of life, season of giving and helping people. And that's what this ministry is all about, truly helping people.
Oh, and believe me, I definitely know it. And it's God's grace so good. Listen, Dr. Mitchell, Pastor Mitchell, it's been a pleasure being able to sit here and interview you and being able to reflect and go back. And we'll be able to look at this and beyond years, and family will be able to see this interview for years to come. It's been a pleasure. Want to mess with you right quick before we go. Ohio State, man, they finally lost to Michigan, but we not only lost, we done lost twice. Mm-hmm. Do you think that Michigan then finally, I got to give Coach Harbaugh a lot of credit. What we going to do in Buckeye Nation?
Well, I really believe that, I think Ohio State played the worst game. And everything you do, it's like ministry and anything in sports. You have to make adjustments. they went into a cover one and never came out of it. I mean, the first half, they should have been up 20-3 or so, but, they got two plays because they're in cover one. The guy throws a pass. One man missed the tackle. He goes to the house. Another guy breaks through. Nobody back there. He goes to the house. And so they're closer at halftime. In the second half, we never made any adjustments, and every play was a big play. We're in that cover one. I think when Ohio State make the adjustments they need to make, I think Coach Day, I think he's just so hyped when it comes to that Michigan game. But I do know one thing: Ohio State don't play. He better get his act together. You can do everything, but you can't keep losing to Michigan. They gave Harbaugh a long time because we beat up on them for decades. So he better get his act together. And
we ain't gonna wait that long in Ohio State.
No, the Ohio folks not waiting that long. You have to beat Michigan. You have to beat Michigan and Michigan State. You can't let them guys win. And so that's something, and that's a promise. And I'll let him know, he got to get that together.
Pastor, what was the website again? www.byhisgraceministries.org.
That's for the church, and you can go there, but it's the Shepherd's House School of Theology for the school.
Okay, so www.shepherds.
Shepherd House School of Theology. Mm-hmm.
So it's www.shepherdshouseSchoolofTheology.com.
No S on Shepherds. No S. H-E-R-D. No S.
Shepherd House. Because this going to be, we're going to put this up. Shepherd House.
And it's just a pleasure, man, to be here. And, you reminisce and you think about so many things. And I just pray for those athletes, man, that, because athletes struggle with a lot of things when you play ball for so many years and now the basketball stopped dribbling. So I pray that, everybody be patient and wait on God, and God will direct your paths. Just be patient.
Appreciate you so much, Pastor. Y'all see how blessed I am. This is my brother. We can talk sports. He can tell you about the Lord. He's been on both sides of the fence. He keep it as real and as authentic as it's going to ever be. And I know that everybody been listening tonight. They got a lot of good wisdom and a lot of good knowledge. And we appreciate you for being on the show. Appreciate you for allowing me to give you your flowers while you're here, because you definitely deserve them. You've been so instrumental in my life, my wife's life, you and First Lady Fran. And I appreciate you, and I love you so much, and appreciate you being on the show. We're going to have you and First Lady back again.
Well, listen, I appreciate you, brother, but you were Dr. Fantastic on your own, brother. I put that ball in your hand, brother, but you took it to another level. All American, brother. So listen, I know the story. God is good. Listen, you be blessed. Thank you so much for having me on. Love you, brother.
Be blessed. Love you. Y'all take care.
All right.
Stay tuned next week for another great show. See you 8 p.m. next week, straight from the source. Y'all be good. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
A 10-year-old founder of a company. Meet Carter, ladies and gentlemen.